It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline. I'm your host, Patrick Brown. Joining me as always are my line mates, Kyle Knopp and Devin Little, and we are pleased to bring you the latest Red Wings news, rumors, and strategies. And before we begin, we have to give a quick shout out to the King, Hank Lundqvist. Congrats on your retirement, Hank. The game will not be the same without you. I know of one fan in particular, Lou in Connecticut, who was at your Game 6 Eastern Conference Final clinching shutout in 2014 against Montreal. And to the King, we salute you. We wish you all the best, and we will certainly miss seeing you lace them up on a nightly basis. Now, with that, how about we talk about some Red Wings hockey? We got lots to talk about today. We want to start with Adam Erne, who, congratulations, the entire panel on here called it. Neither Vrana nor Erne made it to arbitration. They all came to deals before hearings. And with Ernie's deal, my, oh my, what 20 points can get you in the league this year. Erne agreed to a 2-year deal worth a total of $4.2 million, a $2.1 million hit each year on the cap. And good for him, right? Led the team, 11 goals, had a career year for him, and a solid role player. So, Devin, want to start with you. What are your thoughts on the Adam Erne deal? Good deal, bad deal, good for both sides. What do you think?
I think that it's a good deal for Adam Erne. $2.1 million cap hit for 2 years is not that big of a deal for a team that is still rebuilding, still has a ton of cap space, and needs guys like Adam Erne that have kind of showed up hungry for an opportunity and seized the opportunity. And to his credit, yeah, like you said, Pat, he led the team in goals this past season. So good on him, cashed in. Yeah, I can't complain too much.
Absolutely. Good on him indeed. Kyle, Coach Kyle, we should say. For those of you watching at home, don't worry. Kyle's doing just fine. He's just been coaching all week, skates on the rinks. So love the work you're doing there, Kyle. But let's talk about Adam Erne. Your thoughts on his deal that he agreed to.
Yes, I lost my voice doing my best impression of Jeff Blashill with a group of 8-year-olds all week at a hockey camp. So, had a blast, but can't, probably not the best idea for a podcast. So,
you're saying their power play could use some work too.
I think we could. But getting on to Adam Erne, I think this is a great deal for him. 2.1 a year over 2 years is excellent. It's 11 goals, all coming from the third and fourth lines throughout the year last year. I think Devin hit it right on the head. He's one of those guys that really came out and proved himself to be someone that we can rely on as a real depth player. And I think, with the kind of cap space that the Wings have and the type of rebuilding that we are in, we're getting rid of some other contracts that have been nasty on the cap for the last few years, that, 2.1 over the next 2 years is really not that bad. And I think Ernie's going to surprise a lot of people. I see him potting about 15 to 20 goals next season. And I think he could really be that death steal for us.
15 to Adam Erne, a 20 goal scorer. You heard it here first. I love it. Let me tell you, and first, Devin, like you said, and Kyle too, good on Erne. A great deal for him, I have to say. As for whether it's a good deal for the Red Wings, I think we're going to find out. I don't think we know that yet, but let me tell you, if he's a 20 goal scorer, that's a fantastic deal for the Red Wings. So TBD on that, but good thoughts, good perspective. And I wonder what you guys are thinking at home. Go ahead, comment. Did you like the Erne deal? Yes or no? We want to hear what you have to say. So now let's move on to somebody who hasn't agreed to a deal yet. Filip Hronek, who is clearly a leader on the team. 26 points on 2 goals and 24 assists. And those two goals, if hockey had 3-pointers, it'd be 6 goals. But he hasn't made a deal yet. Is there any concern? What do you expect out of this? Devin, let's start with you.
I would like to play darts with Filip Hronek, that's for sure. But no, let's kind of set the table here. Filip Hronek has been the team's top defenseman over the past couple of seasons. Whether that's a role that he's suited for is a whole nother topic, but that it is what it is. That's what he's been. And to his credit, he's averaged roughly half a point a game during that time. I think he's 23. He's still developing as a player. So for him to have played as well as he's done on a bad couple of teams, he's going to make some money on this deal. And both myself and Tony Wolak, our good friend over at our site, have both offered up
miss you, Tony.
Miss you. Please come back. We both offered projections of what we think Hronek will get. So you should go to the site and check that out. That's a plug. But Tony called for a short-term 2-year deal. I think that could very much that fits in with the deals that have been signed this year, this offseason. So I could see that happening. But what I wrote about and what I could potentially see happening is maybe Hronek's the guy that gets some term in the offseason. He, like I said, he's been the team's best defenseman the past couple of years. When Yzerman talks about the core of this team, Hronek's usually a name that he throws out there. I could get behind a 5-year deal for Hronek depending on the money. And we talk about, I believe it was last week or the week before, Pat, you mentioned how Larkin's kind of the bar when it comes to forwards with their deals and how much money they need to make. You can set the bar with Hronek by giving him his deal. And you aren't necessarily able to do that if you give him a 2-year deal. If you give him a 5-year say $5 million deal, that sets your bar. You have to be better than Hronek to make more than $5 million. So I'm looking at, I'd throw out the number 5, like a 5-year, potentially $5 million deal. But yeah, I'm just waiting for this to get done. I'm not expecting it to drag on too long. I'm just kind of excited to see what the final number is.
Absolutely. So Devin, what you're saying is Hronek being the top defenseman is like me being the best bowler on my bowling team. Like you're respectable, you're good, but you in no way, shape, or form should be the best one on the team. So I think
do you have like a Moritz Sider hanging out in the wings on your bowling team?
We do not.
I hope you're hitting more than 2 pins in a season though.
TBD. Wait, I'm not supposed to try and get the lowest score. Oh, let's go. No, okay. All right, we're going off the rails. Let's get it. What do you got, Devin? Finish your thought.
If Hronek's agent is smart, he will negotiate bonuses for each empty net goal, specifically from his own end.
I love it. You could count those. You're putting the game away. It's perfect. Yep. You're earning that bonus. Very good. All right, back on the rails. Nate's not even here, guys, and we're going off the rails. So, miss you, Nate. Kyle, your thoughts on Hronek? What do you think about a deal? Is it going to get done? Are we going to see term? What say you?
Yeah, my guess right now is there's something in between the term between Hronek and Yzerman and the rest of the front office right now that they're trying to figure out. So that might be, like Tony said, Yzerman's leaning toward a 2, maybe 3-year deal. Hronek's like wanting a 5-6-year deal to really lay the roots, especially being a young guy that's kind of looked at as someone that's supposed to bring this organization up out of its rebuild. He probably wants to know that he has that longevity, that support, that security there. So I think that's where they're trying to fall in between somewhere. I think the number $5 million a year is really good. It's probably going to be about where he is, although that is $2.5 million per goal a season. So hopefully we can get some of those averages changed around a little bit. But I mean, he really has been our one true power play quarterback the last season or two. And we've discussed at length how bad that power play was, but he is the guy that directs it all. And I think Devin definitely hit the nail on the head on that. Larkin sets the standard for the forwards, and Hronek's going to set the standard for the defensemen. And I think we are looking at about a 5 million AVV or AAV. Sorry. And I'm going to go with about 3 to 4 year on the term. So we're talking 3 year 15 or 4 year 20, probably.
$5 million America's Funniest Home Videos. I don't get it.
That's not what you win.
That's 10 grand. Devin, you were raising your hand.
I love it. I just want to throw it out there. The reason why 5 million is the number that I'm throwing out there, that's what Danny DeKeyser makes. And Filip Hronek will point at Danny DeKeyser and say, I'm better than him. So
absolutely.
I think you got to give him 5 million at least, but I think that's just a good number to work around.
I think it's good perspective. Kyle, did you have something to wrap it up, or
just that it was going to be the easiest math in my head on the spot? So that's why I picked it. I'm going to actually disagree with your guys' terms, to be honest. I'm going to agree with Tony and think that he's going to come in more around 2 years, because I think you've got a lot of young defensemen coming in. And I agree, Hronek will absolutely set the bar for where this defenseman salary is probably going to start hovering. But in my opinion, this is the only time he'll set the bar. By the time he comes up to re-up, there are going to be some other defenseman leaders on the team who will probably have surpassed him on the depth chart. That's the one reason why I don't necessarily think you're going to see a long-term deal. But it's anybody's guess. You can never get into the head of Steve Yzerman, nor would we try. But really good stuff, good perspective. So what's your number?
I'm awful at this stuff.
Just put us on the spot, but okay.
no, I seriously, but I'll go ahead and I'll throw out 4.4. How about that?
Over 2 years?
Yeah, 4.4.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. You guys can rip me in the comments all you want, because I don't claim to be a GM and I never will. So
early GM, come on.
And so let's say that the contract I just did would be more of a contract like Franz Nielsen signed. And we've got some news about Franz Nielsen.
A segue.
What a transition. Holy cow.
What can I say? Well, guys, guess what? When Vrana and Erne filed for arbitration, Yzerman got another window to buy someone out, and he took it. So we saw Franz Nielsen bought out. To me, an interesting move this year, considering all the room they have on the cap, but it is what it is. So I'm curious your thoughts on the buyout. Good, bad, any questions of it or what? So Devin, let's start with you. Nielsen, see ya.
So what's interesting to me about this is that this was the last year of Nielsen's contract. They very well could have just bled it out and, just wait until next year and call it good, but they didn't. They only save $1 million in cap space. So it's not like this was like a huge financial boost to them. And they already had a bunch of cap space to begin with. What this tells me is that Yzerman values that roster spot. That even if he was going to be an extra forward, Nielsen was probably going to be on the roster just because you don't want to pay somebody that kind of money to play in Grand Rapids. But now he's not there. That opens up a spot for somebody, even if it is as an extra forward. One other quick thing I want to throw out is that I don't remember who said this, but I saw this on Twitter somewhere. Buying out Nielsen drops the Red Wings average age from, I believe, 28.2 to 26.8. They are now they're now a younger team. I mean, that's simple math, but you can see it. This team is shifting slowly, trending younger. And this is the kind of move you make when you're making that sort of trend.
I like it. Kyle, over to you. We're saying goodbye to our favorite alternate, Franz Nielsen. You going to miss him?
I'm not going to miss him.
How do you really feel about it?
Franz, nothing against you, buddy. Thank you for your service. But exactly like Devin said, this opens up a roster spot. We just had this discussion last week. What's that third and fourth line going to look like? Mitchell Stevens was just brought in. We have other guys that need to make the jump. Chase Pearson needs to get some looks. Giovanni Smith needs to make the roster more often. How are they going to do that with Nielsen just plugging a spot in which he doesn't necessarily deserve? Not that he's not a bad player, but we have a lot of younger guys who are just as good as him or could be potentially better, but if they got more ice time. So I think this is fantastic for the Red Wings moving forward. I think this is going to really open up those spots to let some of those younger guys, even if it's just our own little taxi squad coming in and out of Grand Rapids, letting a few guys make that rotation and getting some fourth line minutes and, maybe coming up for a weekend series and then heading back and then doing that a few times a year, whatever it is. Getting that ice time, that development at the NHL level is huge for our rebuild for this team. And I think the best way to do it is by these buyouts.
Yeah, look, I just got done saying I'm no GM. To me, the move was I don't fully understand why they did it, other than Devin, like you said, the roster spot. But they have cap space to burn, so you didn't need the space. Why spread the rest of this contract out over 2 years when you can just be done with it this year? Let him sit in Grand Rapids. I don't care how much you're paying him to be in Grand Rapids. You're paying him over 2 years anyway, so nobody's going to claim him. Let him sit in Grand Rapids and be done with it rather than spread it out. But counterpoint to that, they've got the cap space to burn. It doesn't even matter that they're spreading it out over 2 years. So to me, it was just kind of, oh yeah, well, he used it. Cool. He used the opportunity to buy out Nielsen, but in any case, I think that's all really good stuff. Good perspective. Franz, we thank you for your service. You both are putting your hands up.
No, I was trying to point it. Devin wants to speak.
So Devin, let's hear you.
Kyle is doing the opposite of what you did to me last week. Let him speak. Going back to last week, speaking of going back to my numbers I threw out about experience, this is another big one that adds into that. If you guys remember from last week, Nedeljkovic, Stevens, Suter, and Leddy all equal 905 regular season games of NHL experience. Nielsen has 925 by himself. So that number of Nielsen, Glendening, Bernier, and Helm goes from 1,692 to 2,617. That is a lot of games. And then also for you, Kyle, since you called on me to speak, I did some homework since you put me on the spot last week, and I factored in the playoff games.
Playoffs?
I factored in playoff games.
This is gonna be fun.
So with playoff games, the new guys, we'll just say, is 1,042. The old guys is 2,749. Those are my numbers for the day. I'm done.
Well, they got to start building on those numbers, is what you're saying.
100%.
Right? Got to start building on those numbers. I like it. Good perspective.
So,
Kyle,
my last point to this is the way our team is kind of going this year, and this is kind of it might sound off the wall to make this comparison, but I see our team this year as kind of how the Chicago Blackhawks were set up last year. They're a very young organization. They had a chance to keep some of these veterans or rely on the young guys and see where it took them. They decided to rely on the young guys, give them the experience, and they really surprised a lot of people. Taking Pius Suter from them also helps with that. But in the sense that, we're letting the young guys finally have the team reins and say, all right, you're driving the show. Let's see what you have. And then like we said last week, Blashill also has the chance to say, what can you do with these kids that are now at the helm? So I think this is going to be very huge for the Red Wings this season. I'm very excited for it. Yeah, we might not have the best season. We're going to talk about that in the comment section coming up, but I think it's going to be a fun season.
Absolutely. All good stuff, guys. Let's take a timeout, pay some bills. Thank you for watching our show. Give us a like, subscribe to the Hockey Writers channel. We have so much good stuff on here. We've got Blackhawks banter, Saber Scoop, Chicks and Sticks, What's Crackin', the OG show, the Hockey Writers Live with Mark Shig. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for our Morning Skate newsletter. Get the best hockey news delivered to you however you want it. If you want us to tell you yesterday's news, we will jump into a DeLorean, get that to 88 miles an hour, and see you yesterday to give you the news. So make sure
I'm calling you Doc.
Great Scott. Well, it would be Doc Brown. It would be Doc Brown. So there you go. But I digress. That's really good stuff. We have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm not going to let the wheels fall off just yet. Thank you for watching.
We can't even get through an ad read anymore.
It really feels more and more like a morning show every week. Thank you for watching. Let's hear your comments below. Can't wait to interact with you this week. We do have one more topic before we talk about last week's comments. The inevitable has struck, gentlemen. There will now be ads on jerseys beginning in the 2022-23 season. So we have one more year of pure sweater before we start seeing a little 3-inch by 3.5-inch rectangle on each jersey. So your thoughts on this? Like it was inevitable. I think we all kind of came to terms. You've seen other leagues do it. They've had it on the helmets for a little while now. So kind of inevitable, but also still kind of sucks if I'm being honest. But I'm curious of your thoughts. So Devin, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think you about summed it up there. Inevitable, but it sucks. Listen, what it comes down to for me is as long as I can go out and buy a jersey that doesn't have an ad on it, I'll be fine.
Sure.
I know that especially when it comes to a jersey like the Red Wings one and even all the original 6 ones,
I
like to see those in their most pristine, perfect condition type of thing, not winged wheel and all that it means, and then brought to you by Little Caesars. It is what it is. You want to see the league boost revenue, and this is how they're going to do it. But like you said, it sucks.
Kyle, do you love it or hate it?
Well, honestly, neither. So I don't mind it in the sense that Devin brought up. It's bringing revenue for the league. I hope this is going to turn into allowing teams to expand that salary cap so we don't get stuck with a flat cap of being at the 81.5 or whatever it is now.
Sure.
And I would have much rather them had started with they already started with the helmet ads, but I wish they would have done pant ads, even just little ones, where the logo on the pants normally go. That would have been a little less invasive on the sweaters, but every single minor hockey league in the US and Canada, they have these sponsors on their jerseys.
Oh yeah.
And it's how these teams make extra money. And we are in a capitalist society in which everyone needs to make money. Yeah. So it's, as long as it's not becoming NASCAR, I'll go little 3 and a 3.5-inch patch is not going to bother me.
Well, I got news for you guys. Whether it's the following year or 10 years later, they will start putting more on when you realize the type of revenue that generates. But Kyle, to your point, and you actually said it before I had a chance. I said some of these other leagues, especially the international leagues, look like NASCAR drivers when they're around. And then, of course, you look at, and I mean, no offense to anybody who loves watching soccer/football across the pond. Go Gunners. But they're like all of their kits that you buy, it's already advertising.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. You got to think it'll be a long time before it gets to that point. But I would venture any sort of guess that at some point you're going to probably see a lot of ads because it's just going to keep drawing that money in.
And I think you bring up a great point with, European football is that their their ads are the center logo and then their logos are just a patch. So it's reversed as to what we're seeing in the NHL right now. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's not going to change the product on the ice. So just enjoy the game.
That reminds me, by the way, I got to book a flight. I should probably fly Emirates. I don't know. Anyway. All right. Anybody who doesn't watch soccer/football, I apologize for that joke.
Gosh.
That said, I think all good commentary. I really think everybody pretty much shares the same sentiment. Everybody's a realist, right? As a purist, you don't like to see it, but it was bound to happen. We'll enjoy the ad-free jerseys this season. Well, let's move on to Comment Corner, or a new segment that I'd like to call Holy hell, the comments exploded. So last week was definitely the most active week we've seen in the comments since the inception of the show. And let me tell you guys,
Thank you.
We couldn't love it anymore.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was a lot of fun all week.
Yeah.
So much fun that we couldn't even really get to everything in there, but we're going to do our best to cover as much ground as possible. So we'll start with an old friend of the show, Paradox. Hi, Paradox. You brought up a good point around Larkin and if that neck injury he sustained to the infamous Jamie Benn at this point, he may not be fully healed. We're not sure if he's going to be even ready to start the season. So some concerns around Larkin's health. And then what about his status as captain, even if his health is fine? Is there anything to worry about there? Why change up a good thing? Devin, we'll start with you.
So by all accounts, whether it's Steve Yzerman or Jeff Blashill, it sounds like Larkin's going to be ready to go for training camp. I'm ready to go is kind of a loose term. He might not be 100%, but if he's good to go, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see him miss training camp. So I'm just going to kind of take the general manager and the head coach at their words and just assume that Larkin's ready to go or going to be ready to go. And then as for his role as captain, I'm not really worried about it. When Steve Yzerman, whose nickname is the captain, awards a C to a Detroit Red Wing of all teams, I think that carries a lot of weight, and I think that carries a lot of meaning. I can't imagine that he was giving that to somebody that he foresees getting rid of. You can never predict the future, but I don't think it's in the cards right now to send Larkin out unless he completely bottoms out. I even looked to like Tampa Bay during his time with Tampa Bay. He was there. He was the general manager when Steven Stamkos was named captain. Yep. And he's still the captain to this day. And I think that the prevailing opinion is that Stamkos is not their best player anymore. That's probably Nikita Kucherov. And so if the concern is that Larkin's going to get phased out by better players, and so he's going to lose a C, I don't find merit in that. I think that there's a lot of teams that have, look at like Vancouver with Bo Horvat. You don't have to have your best player be your captain. And if that's what the concern is, I don't buy it.
Yep. All really good points there, Devin. I've got a couple thoughts, but let's let Kyle go first. Kyle, no, nothing crazy, but Kyle, your thoughts on Larkin's health and his status as captain?
Infamous. What's infamous? I think that's more than famous.
Good reference. Reference. Where's I hope Steve Martin's watching.
No, so to touch on one of Devin's points, he was there when he's in Tampa when he named Steven Stamkos as the captain, and Stamkos is not quite their best player, but it's a locker room in attitude type persona that you want as your captain. Doesn't necessarily have to be the best player, but he was also there when he traded their captain Martin St. Louis, and for and swap captains with the Rangers. So it's not unprecedented from Yzerman, but honestly, who is the last Red Wings captain that didn't retire? Can you name him? It's been before Yzerman. So it's in Detroit, they really look at guys who not only exemplify leadership, but exemplify just the compete level and the grit of the city. And what that means is just being there every day, through the good, through the bad, leading by example, and being that locker room presence. And I think Dylan Larkin was already kind of that guy, but he really stepped it up last year. And, I was one of those guys in the beginning that was like, I don't know if we should give Larkin the C, not quite sure if he's quite there yet. And then he really, really impressed me this past season. And I think he is the type of leader that we want in that locker room for this type of team. I don't think it has to be your best player. Larkin certainly might not be the best player. We've been talking all year about how he's not a one-line center. He's a two-line center. And so, there's a lot of discussion there, but I think in terms of, is he going to be okay? this is his role. This is now his team. And
Yeah.
I think we're going to be fine with Larkin in control.
Yeah, all really good points. I think the only thing I would have to add are a couple of things, actually, is number one, Yzerman didn't have to give him the C last year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
The Red Wings didn't have a captain before last year.
Yeah.
They were running with multiple alternate captains. And for a while, it was almost wondering if Yzerman, it was assumed he was going to give Larkin the C, but for a while before last season started, it was kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that. And he decided to anyways. And I'll tell you guys, Larkin's been taking a lot of heat, and that actually kind of surprises me because
Me too.
I realize his production has dropped, but does anybody remember when Yzerman stopped scoring 60 goals a year because all of a sudden he started playing defense? He started leading the team. He started taking the role of that captaincy and understanding if he didn't lead by example and do the things that the team expected him to do, nobody else would. And that meant he wasn't bigger than the team. And it's not just about individual accolades. And now I'm not saying every player has to have that mindset. It certainly can be about individual accolades, but not if you're the captain of a team. And so I believe Larkin was challenged last year. I believe Larkin's been challenged by Yzerman since Yzerman came to Detroit because Yzerman knows what it takes and he knows what he needs to get out of Larkin. And I think they said, to hell with your numbers, lead the team. Go out there and lead the team. And that's why I think his production dropped. So if I'm being honest, and I'm really surprised by all the flack that Larkin has taken, considering how long he's been with the team, and he's been true, and he's answered every question that has ever been asked of him after every 7-2 loss that they've had. And I think fans need to back off a little bit, to be honest, because I just think it's a little bit unmerited. So, all right, off my soapbox. Everybody can let me hear in the comments if you want, but I think the fan reaction to Larkin right now is a little unjustified. Kyle, back to you.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point, and I just wanted to expand on that about Yzerman going from a 60 goal scorer a year to really focusing on his two-way play and how that is kind of how Larkin is this year as well. I was just listening to the Athletics hockey podcast, this week, driving to and from the rink. And they're talking about the, top 10 most likable players throughout the NHL. And, I won't give much away, but Yzerman was definitely talked about. And, they were saying that in the early to mid 90s, after he was made captain, before we really started that mini dynasty of 96 through 2002, there were a lot of speculation about how you can't win with Yzerman, and Yzerman's not the guy, and they need to move on from Yzerman if they're ever going to win a cup in Detroit. And now he's our saving grace. So I think the parallels with him and Larkin are extreme, but also accurate in the sense that a lot of people are starting to say, is Larkin the guy you can win with? And I mean, I've watched a lot of hockey in my years, and he really shows what leadership is. And, as much as I wanted to say he shouldn't be the C, I don't think anyone else on that team could take on this role in this rebuild the way that he has.
Absolutely. Devin, bring us home.
I don't know if it's because he wears the C now, because let's be honest, when you wear the C for any team, that adds expectations and pressure and all that sort of stuff. But I just want to kind of reiterate what you said there, Pat. It blows my mind how much people are going after this kid now. Literally 2 years ago, this kid walked on water.
I know.
And now like he's a third line center at best, and he needs to be traded. Like it's crazy. He is not that bad. He is on a bad team and had bad luck, had bad health. His number one line mate was injured almost all of last season. This is not the time to sell Dylan Larkin. This is selling low on him. We talk again, like you said, Kyle, we talk about him. He's probably not a pure first line center, but he's not trash.
Oh, for sure. I like how you got yourself there. That's good.
I mean, for real though.
Yeah, no. And again, first of all, Paradox, great question, because you got us all riled up. I didn't expect the question. I didn't even expect to get as emotional about it as I did, but sometimes you got to be empathetic and you feel for the
Yeah.
kid. And I think the best part is who we've got running the show. Steve Yzerman remembers that. Kyle, he remembers being talked about getting traded after the 95 season.
Yeah.
He was
Absolutely.
about out the door. And don't think for a minute that Yzerman doesn't remember that chatter. So we've spent enough time on this. We've got a bunch of other questions to get to, but super good commentary and really good question paradox. We appreciate it. So let's go to Allie Jenkins. I love where Allie's head's at because she's basically saying or asking, can Vrana be a 30 goal scorer for the Wings? And I'm gonna go out on a limb and start, and I'm just gonna say, yeah, I think he can, especially if Kyle's putting Erne at 20. I'll put Vrana. But Devin, what do you think about Vrana? Has he got potential to be 30 plus?
I agree with you, Pat. I just want I mean, what, he scored 8 goals in his 11 games.
Yeah.
If you can keep, I mean, I'm not expecting him to continue to keep that pace up.
Speaking of 60 goal scorers.
Yeah. But no, I think 30 is definitely doable for him. And in fact, I'd say that's pretty much the bar I would set. The closer he gets to 30, the more content and happy you got to feel about with his season. I think anything below 20, it's a big old disappointment.
Sure. Makes sense. Kyle, what do you think? Can Vrana pot 30?
I think that Ernie's going to end up with like 16 or 17 goals, and you guys are all going to give me crap for him not hitting 20. No,
you
did
15 to 20.
you know this show well.
You just go to the top end and really set me up for failure next summer. Oh man. Yeah, Devin said it. I think 30 is the benchmark. If he hits 30, that's kind of what we're expecting. He's now our de facto number 1 scorer.
Yeah.
Anything less, especially less than 25, I think is going to be seen as kind of a maybe we shouldn't have spent that money on him type thing.
Sure.
But yeah, and like we said, it's really going to depend on how creative Blashill gets with his offense. Does he let these kids open up and run? If that's the case, we might be talking about a 35 to 40 goal season. Now, don't say anything about that, because if we go by how Blashill's coached the last 6 years, I think 25 to 30 is probably the more accurate range. But yeah, I think we want him to be at 30. We want him to be over 30. I think he's going to hover right around there.
I may take go ahead, Devin. Go ahead.
I just want to say to kind of boost this thought even more, I think Vrana's here to score goals. I don't think he's here to play make.
Yeah.
He's gonna get assists because he shot the puck and somebody banged home a rebound.
For sure. For sure.
He's like the bona fide sniper of this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we've got playmakers. Zadina has demonstrated his ability to set players up. I'm very optimistic about Veleno. Not sure when he's going to get a regular spot, but we've got plenty of playmakers on the team. So Vrana should have the support around him. Now it's not the Washington Capitals, but Vrana's got the support around him to generate some offense. And for what it's worth, I actually think it's less outlandish, Kyle, to say Vrana will score 35 or 40 than I do to say Erne will score 50. but time will tell, and perhaps I'll eat my words.
But to think of a Red Wing getting 40 goals this year, that seems to blow my mind more than anything.
Mickey Redmond would lose his mind.
Oh my gosh, he'd be spitting ginger ale all over LCA, man.
Holy jump.
It's unlikely. It's unlikely just because this team has struggled to score as much as it has. I don't expect them to double their offensive output in one season, but they're going to be better all around, even if it's marginally better. So it'll be interesting to see. But good question, Allie. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we want to hear your thoughts in the comments. So let's move on. We've got 2 more questions for this show. Up next, we thought was new. Look at Lord Venom, but as it turns out, it's our old friend Rick Korth, good friend of the show as well. So Rick has asked. He predicted the Red Wings are going to win half of their games, and I have issues with that. Love you, Rick. I do, but I have issues with that. But I'm curious your guys' thought. Is this team a 500 team this year? Devin, let's start with you.
In the comments section, I'd have to look back to pull it up, but the amount of wins that they had this past season equates to 27 or 28, something like that, over an 82 game season. As much as the Red Wings did improve themselves and added a lot of exciting pieces, I don't think they added 10 wins to their
Sure.
roster. I think 30 is a very realistic and probably a number you want to shoot for, 30 to 35. I'm not talking about Vrana goals. I'm talking about wins.
And just really quick, for those of you at home, winning half their games would be 41 games. Just going to throw that out there. So anybody who may not know, if you're watching for the first time, welcome. We're crazy. Continue, Devin.
Welcome to the show. We talked about this on the show before. We're expecting this team to still be in the lottery conversation going into next year. If you're winning half your games, you're in the playoff hunt. And I just don't think this team is close to the playoffs quite yet.
Yep. I would say off season a year ago, Pat Brown was optimistic for the playoffs, as you all remember. I'm taking a more guarded approach approaching this season.
I'm proud of you. That's character growth.
Kyle, your thoughts? Are the Red Wings a 500 caliber team?
They are not a 500 caliber team yet. They still have quite a bit of pieces that they need to put into place. They're still extremely young. There's still going to be a little bit of a goaltending battle to start this season. I mean, Nedeljkovic was a Calder finalist last year, but I mean, Greiss kind of really solidified himself as the number one. So it's going to be a battle to start the season. There'll be a lot of adjustment with a lot of new players coming in. Hopefully some new systems, knock on wood, maybe a new power play they have to learn this coming up year. But I think we're talking 25 to 35 range. I'm going to shoot toward the lower half of that.
Sure.
We're going to be struggling a bit, but you got to look at this again as well. Yes, there's going to be more games outside of our division this year, which will be great. We'll get to see, the Ottawas, the Buffaloes, the Vancouvers, the teams, the Coyotes, the Ducks, the teams that we can get some wins from. But for the second year in a row, and probably the only time since the original six this has ever happened, or second six, the Red Wings are going to be in a division with both Stanley Cup finalists again, with the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's not going to be an easy division. So to say that they're going to get 41 wins and be a playoff team in this division is kind of absurd. And I mean that in the most kind way possible. But I think we're going to be about the 27 to 31 win area.
I do want to call out, and Devin will come back to you. Allie Jenkins, who asked a previous question, did reply in Rick's comment and predicted 39 wins. So, Allie, you are on the record at 39 wins.
We'll hold you to it. We will.
Okay. Oh, you better believe they will.
Devin, you had your hand up.
Mentioning Tampa Bay and Montreal, let's also not forget Boston and Toronto and the Florida Panthers. They're going to get
they're going to be good.
Them.
Man.
So I'm not expecting this team the Wings need to make good on their games against the Anaheims, the Buffaloes, so on and so forth, because they're not going to find a lot of help elsewhere.
They have to beat those teams that they are supposed to beat, and they have to hope to show up against the teams.
Exactly.
All right, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. And then the other thing, there's a lot of bets going on with this team. I think I've talked about this before. All it takes for the wheels to fall off in this team is for Nedeljkovic to not pan out. If he comes out flat, they have to ride Greiss. And Greiss was streaky as heck last season, and that could happen again. If that happens, we're not even coming close to 40 wins.
Yep. I think all super good points. I think for what it's worth, 35, 36 is maybe where they check in. It is a tough division, but the Red Wings aren't a gimme anymore. I'll give them that.
No.
And I think there are going to be a lot of 1-goal games that they're going to have a shot that could go either way, that could potentially push them to the 500. I don't think they hit 500 this year. I think, in my opinion, they're going to find themselves in some weird, frustrating purgatory of being too good to be a lottery pick, but not quite into the playoffs yet. Is kind of where I think they're going to find themselves, and time will tell. But I think everybody can agree the Red Wings on paper are much improved. So much depends on the team's ability to stay healthy and everything else. And what can you do in those close games? Because year after year after year, we've seen them recently lose those 1-goal games, and that's going to make the difference this year as it does every year. So good stuff. Good. Nothing. Okay. Sorry. I thought I heard somebody about to say something. So All right. So let's have a little fun to end the show, because in our comments, Eric Johnson happened to call out that Aleksander Barkov will be an unrestricted free agent next year. And realistically, it may still be a little too soon, but I could see the Red Wings potentially making a splash in next year's offseason. A lot kind of depends on how this year goes. But what do you think about what? I think he had almost 60 points this year. So certainly would be a meaningful upgrade at center. We've talked in previous shows this year, at least the Red Wings have a surplus of centers. But do you think Aleksander Barkov is worth pursuing? Do you think there will even be the opportunity to pursue Aleksander Barkov, or are the Panthers going to lock him up before he hits unrestricted free agency? So we've done it all show. Devin, last time, we'll start with you.
He really is making up to you this show.
Yeah. I'm expecting to go last all I said it in the comments in the last episode. I'll say it on air right now. If the Florida Panthers let Barkov walk, I will personally relocate him to Quebec, because holy cow, they cannot let him walk. It would be fantastic to see the Red Wings land Barkov, because he plays that two-way game that we all know and love, that the Red Wings have kind of trademarked. But he also has that dynamic offensive ability that makes him not just sound defensively. He won the Selke Trophy. He's a quality player. For the longest time, everyone talked about him as the most underrated player in the league. I think that once you've been talked about as the most underrated player of the league for 5 years, you're not underrated anymore.
Yeah.
But
fair. That's fair.
He's a top line center. And that is kind of what we've all been talking about. That's kind of the missing piece of the puzzle for the Red Wings. So if for some reason the Panthers can't get this kid locked down, I would not be surprised one bit if Steve Yzerman comes calling and goes, "Hey, here's some money. Come up north. We're gonna have some fun."
I love it. And for the record, Kyle, I was actually thinking of you and your voice, and I didn't want you to have to go back to back. Was trying to give you some recuperation time in between responses. But that said, you have the final.
You couldn't just let me feel special.
You're always special, Devin. You are always special. So I don't feel like I need to call it out. You've got the final word today, Kyle. You've got the final word. Aleksander Barkov.
Let's see if we can get this out. Okay. So Florida's not letting him go, right? This is why are we talking about this?
Let's have fun. That's why. Let's have fun.
Florida is locking him up. But if it weren't to happen, he is the player that everyone thought Larkin was gonna be, right? Yep. Two-way forward, scoring 60 points, winning Selkies. You know, he's what we were expecting Larkin to be. Larkin's really kind of falling into a second role line center, which is fine. But if we took a Barkov, would we still need a Larkin? And if that was the case, would there be some other moves that we would need to do to kind of shore up our second line then? So I think if Barkov is available, yeah, we'll probably put an offer out on him, but I think that's really going to shake up kind of the foundation of the top two lines. And not just because we're bringing in a true first line center, but because we're kind of filling a void that's not really there. And so it could change dynamics a little bit. And I think it will really have to see how this season goes. But honestly, I mean, yeah, I'd love to have a Barkov on our team, but I just do not see this happening in any type of reality.
I think that was a really good point about Larkin, in fact, and how there's really no need, and that's the last thing you want to say, especially after we all just got on our respective soapboxes and stumped for him. I don't think we're going to be moving to bring Barkov in anytime soon. But hey, if the price is right, I mean, how could you say no?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. If the opportunity's there and he's listening to offers, you'd be a fool to not pick up the phone and at least see if he'll listen. So, my goodness. First of all, I don't think we can blame Nate for us going off the rails anymore.
Oh, we still can. His spirit has been messing with us today.
Well, you are still stuck with a Brown, so maybe that's Doc Brown, a doctor on top of it. But,
we'll just blame the Browns.
But holy cow, let's end this right now.
Does it all of Ohio already?
Put our viewers out of their misery. Devin, Kyle, you guys are good sports, and this is always such a great
I love
show
this.
to film. A lot of fun. That's our show. Thank you for watching. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Make sure you're leaving your comments so that we can have a lot of fun going back and forth. Tweet us at THW Grindline, and we will answer you and feature you on our next show. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.